All right, what's up, everyone? It's Zach, and today I'm here with a very special guest. I'm here with Abby Niehaus. Abby, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, thanks for taking some time to talk. Really excited to talk with you. Abby is someone that I met. We were just talking about it before this. It's only been a year, but it feels like it's been a lot longer. But a fellow Chippewa, and she actually played Division One college softball at Central, and now is working in sales with a professional sports team. So pretty cool background and pretty cool information. But Abby, do you kind of mind talking a little bit about your background, who you are, what you're doing these days, all that good stuff?
Yeah, of course. I guess so. Yeah, like Zach said, I am a fellow Chippewa. I did my undergrad there, and I started my master's degree, but have not quite finished it because um, I took a job out in California with the San Jose Sharks. So I came out here, did inside sales, which is, for anyone that doesn't know, is typically the entry level position in a professional sports team. And did that for, I think it was like 3.5 months before I got promoted. And now I am in group sales account executive. So I really like it so far. Just inside sales was basically selling full menu, season tickets,
Okay.
partial plans, and groups, suites, anything under the sun. And now I'm focused on um, group tickets and suites and stuff like that. So, really like it so far. I love working in sports. It's a lot of hours, but I love it. So I'm going to keep doing it for a while. And I actually started coaching. Like Zach mentioned, I played softball in college. So obviously, I love softball.
Hmm.
And I realized once I got out of college that I miss it. And so basically, I just came out to California, Google searched any coaching positions, and kind of started to build my reputation out here in the softball world. And I was a middle school softball coach for a school out here for a little bit, and now I'm coaching a travel team. So I'm really excited, and honestly, just trying to get my feet stabilized out here because I know nobody. I moved
Right.
out here. I live with a random guy from Ohio. We work together, but I never met him until I got here. So
Okay.
that was kind of funny,
Yeah.
but it's been working out really well.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just from the conversations we've had every so often, and social media and stuff, it definitely seems like you've been doing well, and congratulations on the promotion. That's huge, and it's crazy. Like, it sounds like it came so quickly. So I know that you're doing great work. So it sounds like things are going well. But what was that like? Just like kind of picking up everything and moving out to California. Were you like worried or scared about it, or were you more so like excited about that new chapter of your life?
I think it was a little bit of both.
Okay.
I always had a feeling I wanted to leave Michigan because I grew up in Michigan. I mean, I did an internship in Ohio and Toledo, but that's not very far.
Right.
So I've never really left Michigan. And I started to get a feeling in college. I was like, I need to explore. I need to get out of here. My
Hmm.
older sister, she's a teacher and she did her first year in Arizona. And I always look up to her and the way that she like just moved away and grew out there on her own, that inspired me, I think, to want to kind of do the same. And now that I'm out here, I feel like I might stay a little longer than her. She only stayed a year, but it was scary. It definitely was. I feel like going out here for me is a little bit different than someone coming out to a random state in a different job because for inside sales, I don't know if you're familiar, but it's basically like, it's kind of like going to college and playing a sport. Like you start
Okay.
it's like a class, they call us the inside sales class, and there was 8 of us. So because of COVID, we all started the same day. Usually we don't,
Okay.
but we all started the same time, and that made us form a really good bond and a friendship. And so that helped me a lot because I moved out here and I automatically found friends.
Yeah.
So I think if I didn't have that, it would have been a lot harder, and I don't know if I'd want to stay much longer, because I think people makes all the difference in your job and in life in general. So
Yeah.
um, that's made a big difference. So it was scary, but I have no regrets.
That's good. Yeah, and I mean, like you said, the people and having that support system and those connections, can make such a difference. No matter what like stage of life you're in, or moving away somewhere, going to school, whatever. Just having those people can really make or break the experience.
Exactly.
Awesome. So, California. I feel like it's a place where a lot of people say like, "Oh, I want to go to California. It's so awesome out there." Just in general, like, how have you enjoyed living in the state itself?
Yeah, I love it, to be honest. I I feel like a lot of people from Michigan have this like idea of California as
Yeah.
like like a mystical land where
Hmm.
everything's so fine and perfect.
Yep.
um I think the biggest reality check for me was just how expensive it is. Like
Yeah.
I knew it would be more expensive, but I'm in Silicon Valley.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's so it's Northern California. It's so expensive.
Yeah.
Um but I've gotten used to it. I think coming right out of college and moving here was a bigger kind of eye opener, just because I had never had a real full-time job and had
Hmm.
to live on my own without my parents' support and all of that stuff. So I think it would have been an eye opener anywhere, but especially
Yeah.
here. And but I've adjusted, and now that
That's
I got
good.
promoted, I'm a lot more comfortable doing this.
Well, good.
So it's been good, and the weather is great.
Yeah.
Everybody's in winter coats right now, but it's like the lowest it gets is like 50. So it's kind
It's
of
so
funny.
funny. Yeah, like how, for people like us from Michigan and stuff, or just anywhere Midwest or whatever, you're used to like the cold weather. And then when you go out, down south or out west, people are like, oh my God, it's freezing and it's only like 50 or something. And you're like, this is still great, like nice
Yeah.
weather for me.
No, I know. Like it just feels like fall still.
Yeah.
Like I see the leaves are still falling from the trees. It does not
Hmm.
feel like December at all. And
Yeah, I can
it's
imagine.
so weird. Like my mind
Yeah.
is confused, but I do it's weird cuz it feels like I've lived here a lot longer, but
Yeah.
now I'm like adjusting. I'm like, "Dang, it's chilly." And then I'm like, "Dang." Everybody's like,
Right.
"Abby, you're from Michigan. You can't be cold." But it's a different cold.
Yeah, I am sure, like, it as weird as it sounds, like, the longer that you're there, the more, like, you become, someone that's, like, always lived there, if you will, and, like,
Yes.
you just, like, adapt, and you're like, "Oh, wow, okay, 50 is really cold."
I know. It's like I catch myself. I'm like, that's so embarrassing. My family
Yeah.
would kill me for saying it's cold right now.
Oh gosh, I love it. So, you mentioned the cost of living being a lot more expensive, and I'm sure, anyone listening or anyone that has any idea of California could probably imagine that. Um, is it I'm assuming it's quite a drastic difference, isn't it, from like coming from Michigan?
Yeah, it is pretty
Okay.
drastic. I mean, I'm trying to compare the like in the cities in Michigan, like Grand Rapids and
Yeah.
Detroit. Like I'm sure it's somewhat comparable,
Okay.
but just in general, like gas is like at least $5 a gallon here. So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
just everything is more expensive.
Yeah,
I
that's
when I
that's
first
crazy.
started, I mean, inside sales is not, you don't get paid very much. It's like minimum wage.
Okay.
And so I've been shopping at the dollar store and but it's, it's part of the experience, and
Yeah.
I have no problem doing that. I feel like it's building character, so.
Yeah. I definitely, it might not be the most ideal situation or time of your life, but I think it does like it helps us grow and like it kind of puts you out of your comfort zone a little bit and you have to kind of learn.
Exactly.
And I think that like those can be uncomfortable moments, but they can be when we grow the most.
Exactly, which is really why I came out here, because I knew watching my sister come out here, she said the same thing, or not here, but Arizona, but she
Hmm.
said the same thing. And, I graduated college and I felt like I could do anything. And
Yeah,
this opportunity came, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it. And every advice I've ever gotten, or like my mentality is kind of formed to where if an opportunity comes, I don't turn it down, because I feel like if if I don't like it, I'm gonna realize really quick, and if I do, then it's a great opportunity.
I really like that because I think that like for me personally and probably a lot of other people, like opportunities might come up and you might spend too long thinking about it or you might talk yourself out of it because what if it goes wrong or what if all these what ifs. So I think just that
Right,
reminder to like just take it and say yes. Like I mean, worst case scenario, it doesn't work out or you don't like it, like that's not like the
right,
end of everything. There's always other options out there.
exactly.
Definitely. So, with that opportunity, to go out to California and to work for the Sharks, like, is that something that just kind of things happened and the opportunity came up, or were you looking for like jobs in sales or jobs with like sports teams or in California specifically? Like, how did this like kind of fitting happen?
Yeah. So, in college, I was a part of the Sport Management Association.
Right.
I
Yep.
was a member all 4 years, but my junior and senior year, I helped plan the conference that we put on every year. And so my senior year, I was the vice president of SMA, and then the student leader of the conference. And doing this, it really put me in front of a lot of different organizational leaders and sales managers. So, I mean, I was in contact with them because they were coming to my conference, and
Hmm.
so I met a lot of people, and specifically Connor, who was my inside sales manager. Um, it really, I wasn't even looking for a for a job in San Jose, but
Yeah.
he reached out to me and he was like, "Hey, let's get on a call." And I thought it was about the conference, but he was really secretly interviewing me.
Yeah.
And so we got to talking, and then he invited me to a workshop. And typically these workshops are in person, but with COVID,
Yeah.
it was virtual. Which honestly, if it was in person in a normal year, I wouldn't have even been able to go because of softball season.
Yeah.
So I believe everything happens for a reason, and I think it lined up perfectly for me to be able to get in front of this leadership team out here. And when they offered me the job, I had a couple of other offers, but I wanted to work for Connor because he
Yeah.
seemed like a great guy. And I told myself, and just listening to other people in the industry, that you don't chase a team that's doing well. You don't chase your favorite team. I mean, you might, but the biggest thing I was looking for is a good company culture, something that resonated with me, and Connor did. So once he offered, I mean, it was a no-brainer for me from there.
That's awesome. And yeah, I mean it's crazy just to hear kind of when you're explaining how this all worked out when you mentioned being invited to the workshop and stuff. I was like, well, I'm assuming that was virtual because if it wasn't, California to Michigan during a school year, that's probably tough.
Exactly.
So it's kind of crazy to hear you say that and then be like, yeah, everything happens for a reason or like things there's like perfect timing is like so important because yeah, like in a normal year, you know, you probably wouldn't be able to go and if you aren't able to go, you very well might not have been given an offer and then who knows what you'd be doing right now. Like, you might just be in grad school right now.
Right, exactly. You never
Yeah,
know.
definitely. So that's wild. And with so you played softball and you coach it and everything, and obviously now you're working in the hockey or sports industry, but hockey specifically. Have you just always been passionate about sports, or like has it just been like hockey too and softball, or are you like learning to, I guess, be more into the game now that you're working in that
Yeah,
industry?
it's funny because people are like, Abby, why did you move across the country for a hockey team?
Yeah,
Because anybody that knew me, like I've never really been around hockey. Like obviously in Michigan, you know hockey, but it's never been my favorite sport or anything like that.
yeah.
Um, so I honestly came here knowing hardly anything about hockey. I'm learning a lot, and I'm really building a passion around hockey, but I never had that before.
Yeah.
Um, I've always been passionate about sports though, because I don't know if you even know this, Zach, but I'm one of 7 kids, and
No.
I have 4 older brothers, and we all played sports. But I just, growing up with 4 older brothers, I always wanted to be like them and play the sports and play football with them
Yeah.
and everything. So I mean, I grew up going to their practices and being around their games until I had my own sports to play, and I played in college, obviously. So
Yep.
once I figured out there was a major around sports, I was like, duh, why don't
Yeah.
I do this? And sports is like the industry is not for everyone because the hours are crazy. I mean, we have so many games this month. I feel like I'm always working, but I also, that's like how my brain works. That's how I run. I
Yeah.
have to be busy. So it just works out for me. And I really like working in hockey. The season's very comparable to the NBA. So I knew, like, out of college, I knew either NBA or hockey
Okay.
because in Toledo, when I had in my internship with the Mud Hens and the Walleye, so that was baseball and hockey.
Yep.
And when I worked my first hockey game, I was like, wow, this is so cool. The energy is crazy.
Yeah.
And I would say it's just way more fun than watching any other live sport in my eyes. I'm probably biased though, but I love it. I love it so far.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's it's so cool that you've had this positive experience around sports throughout your whole life essentially, and even though like you said hockey was never something that you're super passionate about back home and growing up, like it's really cool to hear that you're developing that passion. And from like, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest hockey fan by any means, but follow it casually. But from what I know, I'm pretty sure San Jose is a pretty solid team and like historically a good team, so like I'm sure that makes it more exciting and like kind of fuels the passion that you're working for and getting to
Yes.
learn about like the history of a great franchise and everything.
Yeah, we've been struggling this season and last season a little
Okay.
bit, but and it is fun to watch them play. I don't get to
Yeah.
watch a lot because I'm
Sure.
working, but
Right.
when I do get to watch, it's just so fun to watch. But
Yeah.
we're actually struggling on attendance because, um, well, I think a lot of different factors, but
Hmm.
the biggest one being COVID.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I know in Michigan it's a little bit different, but to get into the arena, you have to show proof of vaccine
Okay.
and you have to wear a mask.
Okay.
And so a lot of people are vaccinated here,
Hmm.
but there still are people that aren't coming back because either they're still too afraid or they refuse to get vaccinated. So
Right.
that's just an objection that is hard to combat right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm really glad that you brought that up because I was actually going to ask, like, with COVID and being in a pandemic and stuff, like, how has that impacted sales, right? Because it's like attendance. You need people to come to the games, but whether it's restrictions or people's comfort levels, like that had to have been something that was difficult. But then I was kind of like realizing you've probably, you're well, at least in this job, you've only ever worked during, you know, COVID's existence. So it's kind of like that's really like kind of all you know at this point, right?
Right. I know I hear people talking about how empty the arena is,
Yeah.
and And on some games, I'm like, yeah, this is empty, but it's
Mhm.
also all I've ever seen. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a couple of games where it's like pretty packed, but
Okay.
just not nearly as consistent as it used to be,
Yeah.
coming from other people that have been here longer.
Right.
And on a ticket sales side, like we're doing all we can,
Mhm.
but like people just aren't comfortable
Yeah.
with the situation yet, and there's at some point there's nothing to do about that. But
Right.
also on the other side, there are teams around here like the Warriors or the Niners where they don't really have the same issue as us. And
Mm.
arguably hockey's just not as big of a sport in California as it is
Sure.
as basketball or football is. So I think it's challenging, but
Mhm.
also just trying to find a way to get over that.
Yeah. And now, like, when it comes to ticket sales and everything, for you, does it ever get discouraging at times? Like, whether it is because of the pandemic or just whatever reason, like being told no, or like people saying like, no, like the team's not that good this year. Why would I want to go to the game? Or, like, does
Right.
that ever, like, those objections, does that ever impact like your confidence or like weigh on you? Or is it something that you're just kind of like, all right, let's move on to the next and just go from there?
I mean, sometimes it can get to you. And I mean, in anything, when you're just getting rejected all the
Yeah.
time, like, it obviously can be kind of hard. But I think playing softball has helped kind of prepare me for this because, I mean, baseball and softball, it's a game of failure and
Yep.
you fail all the time. And I kind of just have that mentality where, I mean, if you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, you're an all-star. So
Yeah.
just keeping my head up and moving on. It can be like tough if you go like a week without a sale and you're like,
Yeah.
damn, this sucks.
Right.
But it's you can't get too down because
Mhm.
you I mean, people build off of your energy, and if you're not excited about the tickets, then they're not going to be excited about tickets. So it's the same with any type of sales. Like if you're passionate about it, they're going to feed off of that and building
Mhm.
that trust with them. So it's really just you can't get too down. Some days it happens, but then you
Yeah.
just got to reset.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. And I spent, and I don't think I told you this before, like you knew this, but I spent a year in sales a while ago before I went back to grad school. And yeah, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. And like, I think the biggest piece of advice someone ever told me was like, you can't get like too high on the highs, but
Right.
don't get like
Or
too low on
low
the
on the lows.
lows. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you just have to have that like kind of like mellow kind of levelness to it. And I grew up playing baseball, so exactly like Abby said, it's a game of failure, and you know, 3 out of 10 times you're an all-star, you're making the Hall of Fame. So that's just kind of the mentality that helped me with it. And I think that just from what I've seen and friends I have and people I know, it seems like people with athletic backgrounds usually do succeed or enjoy the sales industry quite a bit.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of my colleagues and coworkers are ex-student athletes.
Right.
And if they weren't in college, then they grew up playing sports. I mean, obviously it's sports sales, so that might be
Hmm.
more common, but I do agree. I feel like there is a correlation there.
I think it like to me it always seemed like it almost comes from like the competitiveness that like you kind of get from being an athlete, where like you're not afraid to work hard and you want to be the best and you want to win or whatever.
Oh, for
um
sure.
and that's kind of like where the sales come in. Like you get that competitiveness, like you have that healthy competition with your team or your office or whatever, where like you kind of want to be at the top with sales, and you want to win the clients over and get their business and stuff. So it's like it just kind of comes from that like same mentality of like the grind and hustle that you have to do as an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have like sales contests all the time. Right now we're in the middle of one. And I think the top seller this week gets like a $100 Visa gift card or something.
Nice.
So they do keep us motivated and keep
Yeah.
that competition rolling. So I really like that too. It's fun.
Yeah, those kind of things are good and like they're nice. It's like a fun little thing and it kind of keeps I think it keeps it competitive, but it also kind of keeps things like light and kind of enjoyable just like in the atmosphere. So definitely nice to have those little things going on. Now, like if someone is talking to you, Abby, or like if someone listening is maybe thinking about doing sales or has an offer in sales or is like uncertain about it, like do you have any advice for someone who's trying to figure out if like sales is the path that they should take or not?
Yeah, I was actually talking about this the other day with one of my managers.
Okay.
I remember in college thinking, "There's no way I would ever do sales. Like, sales is not for me. I don't want to be like, I don't want to have to make somebody do something they don't want to do and convince them all of this
Yeah.
and you know I just had this idea of sales that I was so wrong about. Like, I don't know if it's different in sports or not, but for me, sales is not like, the sleazy car salesman you think of where you're like lying to people and just
Mhm.
just getting them to take their money. Like, I do not view sales like that at all. Um, it's really it's really just listening to people, and if there's a fit for what product you're selling, then you're essentially helping them. Like,
Yeah.
that's the mentality I have. I'm not just taking someone's money. I'm providing them an experience that
Mhm.
could last them a whole lifetime. And
Yeah.
and yes, they have to pay for it, but you have to pay for everything.
Exactly. Yep.
And so I think just change the moment I realized that I could still be myself and sell, I knew that I could be successful with it because I never realized what sales really was. And so I think to anybody out there that is thinking of sales or has a bad impression of sales, just have an open mind. And I think anybody could try it. I think anybody can do sales. It's really about working hard and making it your own sales process.
Yeah.
So I would say do not turn down sales because of an impression you have. If you want to try it, then do it. I'd
Yeah.
say anybody can.
I think that's a great kind of just mindset to have. And, unfortunately, I think a lot of people do have that misconception of sales being, maybe sleazy or shady or just like not fun
Yeah.
or like, and, I don't think either of us are going to say that sales is necessarily easy. There's a lot
Oh
of hard
no.
work
Yeah.
and, time commitment and stuff with it. But, I think it can be very rewarding. And of course, depending on the industry or what you're selling, like, kind of like Abby was saying, I think with her case, like she's selling an experience to people that could, be maybe one of the best experiences of someone's life. Like I think a lot about my, childhood and growing up in my life. And like I have so many good experiences surrounding sports and like going to sporting events. It's like those
Yeah.
are moments that like could change your life or like, as a young kid, you could go to a sporting event and that's what makes you passionate about the sport, makes you end up pursuing that sport in college or professionally or whatever. So it is kind of more
Exactly.
about the experience, right? Than just like getting money from someone.
Right. It's not just about collecting cards. I mean,
Exactly.
that is a part of it, and
Right.
it's a fun part. I remember I was so nervous to ask for someone's card at first, but once you do it, it's like you're powerful.
Yeah.
It's like that sales high you get.
Yep.
So it's
Definitely.
really fun.
I love it. That's great. And so you were mentioning you're now after the promotion, you're doing group sales. You said it is.
Yes, group
Okay.
sales.
So when we're talking group sales, is that more so like you're working with maybe like companies or like groups or, you know, schools, like groups of students or, whatever kind of getting sales that way? Or is it
Yeah.
okay?
So, a lot of groups I have right now are probably companies because of
Okay.
holiday parties.
Mm,
So a lot of companies will bring their employees out and have a holiday
yeah.
party at a game, or just to show appreciation. We have like youth sports come out,
Okay.
schools, church groups,
Okay.
performance groups. Um, yeah, different,
Okay.
any kind of group you could think of, retirement parties, like
Yeah.
literally anything. And so it's really fun. I like groups a lot because I like working with kids and I
Hmm.
like planning. So it's kind of just like the best type of sales for me personally.
That's awesome. And now I'm assuming, there might be a little bit, but like, was there a noticeable difference for you between like the group sales and like the individual sales?
Um, yes, with group sales, it's a lot more work, I would say,
Okay.
because I mean, especially right now with COVID, it's like,
Yeah.
say if I have two people that buy, or someone's buying two seats season tickets, I just have to make sure they pay basically, and
Okay.
they know all the benefits they get, and that the two of them are vaccinated. So if and then on the other hand, if I have a 100-person group coming out,
Hmm.
I have to make sure that all 100 of them know that they have to be vaccinated, that they have to wear a mask, that the bag policy has changed, and that, they have to be here at this time for this
Yeah.
game. Whereas for the season ticket holders, they're coming repeatedly. They don't need to be checked on all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's just a lot more checking in on them, making sure, a lot of communication. And so it is a bit time consuming, but yeah, that's the biggest difference, I would say,
Okay.
is just more people to cover communication with. And you just you really have to have a really good group leader to be able to relay your message to.
Yeah, so like I didn't even realize or think of that kind of being part of it. So, you mentioned like having a, strong group leader that you're coordinating with now. Like, is it kind of you're communicating with the group leader and then they then communicate to their group, or are you also like having those interactions with group members too and like really talking to everyone within that group itself?
It's mostly relying on the group leader,
Okay.
which can be very tough,
Yeah.
depending on how the group is. And ideally, you're going to have these groups renew for next year. And so then you kind
Yeah.
of train them to know what's going on. But I mean, sometimes you have a couple of people you're talking to, but for the most part, you have that one group leader because,
Okay.
I mean, they're the one putting the money down and they're the one organizing everything. So that can be very challenging. You really got to stay on top of the group leader and make sure they're relaying the message.
Yeah. Definitely. And I mean, I don't know, I could be very off with this, but I feel like there might be some group leaders who are just like, yeah, like let's just get this done with and whatever. So they might not like be the best at communicating or might not prioritize the communication as much as, maybe some groups that are really
Yeah,
more on top of it and stuff.
right. And it's hard because I mean everything's changed with the I wasn't here last year, but
Hmm.
everything's changed with COVID and everything. Like I mentioned our bag policy. It's
Yeah.
We used to accept clear bags and now we don't, and it has to be like a certain size and it's very small. So like a women's purse,
Yeah.
most of them can't even fit in to get the arena. So people have been like used to having a clear bag. It doesn't matter what size, a clear bag, but
Yeah.
now that's not acceptable. So with these, like, communicating to group leaders, we've had groups come and they have like a bag that doesn't fit. So either
Yeah.
they have to buy a locker to put it in, or they go back to their car and put it away, or whatever it may be. But these are the little things that could keep someone from coming back again.
Yeah.
So it's very important to be on top of that and make sure that they don't have that negative experience because, like I said, if they do, then they might not come back.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I mean, when you think about the experience that people are having and, certainly for sales, like you want that repeat business if you can. So it's just like, what can you do personally to make sure that they have a good experience when they come? And I think a lot of it comes from just that communication piece of like making sure everyone knows what the expectation is or what like the rules or policies are, just so anything can be prevented before they even get there.
Exactly. It's all about setting the expectation.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I mean, even like the bag thing, I'm just thinking about like I could see people like just being completely turned off by the idea of coming back or even going in the first place because like, oh, no one told me this, and now I have to walk back
Exactly.
a mile to my
Exactly. And
car.
it's not even something that we can control or a rule we make. So it's like we got to work with what we've got.
Right. Definitely. Do you now when it comes to, getting making these sales with groups or even back, when you're working with individuals, is it more so like these individuals or these groups are calling you and like wanting to talk about the potential of ticket sales, or are you calling out to people, or is it a mix of both, or like are you able to talk about that kind of process a little bit?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I know for inside sales, it was a lot of cold calling,
Okay.
and that turns people off. I know. I mean, it can be grueling work and annoying and boring, but it ultimately leads to sales. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the grind of sales. It's just what you gotta do. But
Yeah.
um, yeah. So for inside sales, I mean, it's probably like 80 calls a day, maybe
Okay.
100, maybe less, depending on, how many meetings you have. But I think it's important to also mention that, sales, you're not picking up the phone and making a sale on the first call. Like,
Right.
I'm calling people, and my goal is to set a meeting and to meet them in person if I can, or over Zoom, or have another phone call. It's You're not selling them right away. You're gonna build the relationship, and then you're gonna build trust, and then they're gonna buy. So, it's I mean, cold calling is to get a meeting, and then like now, I have a lot more inbound calls where people are asking for stuff,
Hmm.
and that's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
A lot easier, I would say, but it's definitely a mixture of both, and we do have our own leads like built into the system, but a
Okay.
lot of it is also prospecting our own leads and finding new business.
Okay. That's awesome. And, it's really cool to hear you just talk about the importance of like building that relationship. And, I think that a lot of people in sales potentially try to jump the gun. And it's like, first time you get someone on the phone, you just get very aggressive and try to sell them hard.
Right.
And I think we all probably do that at some point in sales. And then you
Yes.
kind of learn, like, yeah, that's not the best approach all the time. And I think that like something that I even learned in sales, it's kind of weird, is like I feel like when I started to not care about like actually making sales, I started making the most sales that I ever made. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure. Because it's so nice, yeah, to make a sale, but like at the end of the day, if they don't want to buy, then they're not going to buy.
yeah.
These people, they're human beings. There's only
Hmm.
so much convincing you can do,
Yeah.
and and most of it's out of our hands. So it's
Right.
just letting it happen.
It is. Yeah. You just kind of have to let it happen and just like, just, I guess I like to say, don't get too excited and just like,
Yes.
just be
I've
kind of
had
level with them.
many times where I thought for sure I was gonna get the sale, and
Right.
then they just ghost me or something.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I've been there as well. You mentioned objections. Just out of curiosity, have you ever gotten any like really weird objections or just like a really random one?
Oh, can you? And that's a tough. I don't know if anything really comes to my mind right now.
Okay.
I've had like sad ones where you call
Okay.
someone and they've like passed away or something, and you're
Oh
just like
wow.
super sad.
Yeah.
Or with the vaccine, like someone can't get vaccinated because
Mm,
they have cancer or something, and it's
yeah.
like I get so emotional about it because I have nothing to do with the policy, and
Yeah.
it's like to keep people safe, but there are these one-off things where you can't even control it, and
Yeah.
you just you know you have to relay the message.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
like,
the tough part of sales. It's just like sometimes it's out of your control.
yeah, it truly is. And like, you know, just knowing you and just people in general, like we definitely don't like to enjoy delivering like bad news or anything, but being that
No.
messenger, like we kind of are forced to, and sometimes people are upset, and sometimes we unfortunately get the tail end of that frustration because you are the messenger. So that can definitely be a tough part of it for
Yeah,
sure.
people definitely take things out on us
Yeah,
because they think we, for some reason, they think we make the rules and we build the pricing. Like, no,
right.
I don't make any of this. I'm just telling you what we have.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Abby, you kind of talked about you like to always be busy, and with, your job now, you're pretty busy and you have long hours, hectic schedule. And, as a college athlete, I know that college athletes, the schedule is pretty busy with workouts, games, practice, class, all that stuff. Like, is there anything that has really helped you or that you do that helps you kind of like stay organized and stay on top of things? Or is it just kind of like you get used to it after a while and you have no choice but to like be on top of everything?
I think the biggest thing for me is I'm a huge note taker.
Okay.
I write notes about almost everything.
Yeah.
So that is the number one thing that helps me a lot. And honestly, just like I'm still pretty new to my position. I
Hmm.
am the youngest one in my group sales team.
Oh, wow.
And like a big thing for me is I have to ask questions. And as annoying as it may feel, if I don't, then I'm just gonna get something wrong. So
Yeah.
I think just not being afraid to ask questions and taking notes because I've never had an issue with taking notes, but I know some people aren't used to it, and I
Yeah.
think in the group sales especially, like you have to take notes.
Yeah. Okay. Note taking, yeah, definitely that sounds super important, like asking those questions. And I'm sure everyone's heard that like expression of there's no dumb questions or something. And that's
Yeah,
definitely true. Like you can't, especially when you're new to something, don't be afraid to ask
right.
as
You
many
can't be
questions.
an expert right away.
Exactly. And like don't put that pressure on yourself to think you have to be an expert right away, because I've
Right.
certainly done that and it's not good.
I think we all have, and then you'll
Yep.
mess up, and you're like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's part of life, especially, you know, people around our age or people that are new to a job or new to any experience. Like, you're gonna mess up, you're gonna fail, you're gonna, you know, again, it goes back to baseball and softball. Like, life is kind of like it, where it's a game of failure. You're gonna fail over and over again, and that's okay. Just get back up and try again.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Abby, it has been super fun to catch up with you and just to chat and hear about your journey and your experiences and everything. Um, if anything that we've talked about today is really resonating with people, or they're maybe interested learning about sales more, or about your experience, your background, or how you got to where you got, is there any place that like people can connect with you, whether it's like um, a social media or email or anything that you would be open to chatting with people on?
Yeah, absolutely. You can, search me up on LinkedIn and add me as a
LinkedIn. Okay.
connection, message me, ask me any questions. I'm very open and willing to help anyone interested. I think my LinkedIn is just under Abigail Niehaus. So,
Okay.
um, just a quick search and you'll find
Yeah.
me.
Perfect. And yeah, I'll put your LinkedIn in the episode description. So
Okay.
anyone listening, you can also just look down there and then connect with Abby that way. And yeah, I mean, I think that Abby's a terrific resource, and like she's always been someone that I think to me has, been very straightforward and open and honest. So I'm sure if you have questions about, sales or, the sports industries, I'm sure she'd be happy to kind of give you an accurate description of what it is. So like you kind of know what it is before maybe you take a job in it or start looking for those jobs.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, Abby, is there any kind of last thoughts, last words, last message that you want to give to anyone that's listening today?
I would just say be open minded and there's nothing wrong with trying something and finding out you don't like it. So um, try as much as you can if you're interested, and if it doesn't work out, then there's no shame in that. Just keep on trying to find what you're passionate about, and once you do, hold on to it.
I love that. That's a great, way to sum up everything we talked about. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, try new things, and figure out what you're passionate about. And if you don't know what you're passionate about right now, that's okay. You know, it'll come to you. And I think the best way to learn is to just try different things. And, you know, if it doesn't work out, it's not a failure. It's just another chapter, you know, in your life. So
Yep, you're just one step closer to finding it.
exactly. Awesome. Well, Abby, thank you again so much. I have no doubt that you're going to continue to just succeed in this role and whatever you end up doing. You know, you have a great attitude and personality towards, you know, what you're doing with sales and connecting with people. So I'm excited to follow along with your journey and see, you know, where it all takes you. But I have no doubt you're going to continue to do some great things.
Yeah, thanks, Zach, for having me.
Of
And
course.
yeah, thank you.
Of course. Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Okay,
All right.
bye.
Bye.